check. Stephen Boyd's passion for education goes far beyond traditional classrooms. With over 25 years of experience as an award-winning classroom music educator, oh my goodness, and school administrator, I told you he had a lot in common, Stephen has dedicated his career to developing innovative approaches that foster true student engagement and success. In 2014, inspired by his own experiences and the challenges faced by educators, he founded SB Entertainment, LLC. Its educational division focuses on equipping teachers with practical strategies for classroom management and student engagement, making a lasting impact on both educators and students. Stephen's motivational teaching style doesn't just focus on delivering content, it aims to inspire, uplift, and move his audiences to action. Known for his ability to connect deeply with students and educators alike, Stephen has become a highly sought-after motivational speaker. His message has reached audiences at the National Press Club in Washington, D.C., and he has spoken at notable educational conferences, including the National Association of Elementary School Principals, the National Association of Alternative Education, and ASCD. His passion and engaging presence has earned him accolades for educating minds, exciting hearts, and empowering hands. Coming from a family of ministers, Stephen's passion for speaking and teaching is rooted in a legacy of leadership. The generational influence has driven him to continue motivating others to reach their highest potential. His dynamic presence on stage, whether in front of educators or students, is marked by an energy that leaves a lasting impression. In addition to his speaking engagements, Stephen is also an accomplished author and musician. His 2020 single, Heal the Land, was featured on Billboard's media-based gospel charts. He followed this up with the companion book, Heal the Land, a blueprint to spiritual restoration. In 2023, he became a contributing author to the Amazon bestseller, Your Deck of Success. His work, both as an educator and author, continues to inspire individuals to grow personally and professionally. Stephen holds a BA in music education from the University of Maryland Eastern Shore, a master's degree in school leadership from Wilmington University, and certifications in various areas of education and mental health. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Reading Circle microphone, Stephen Boyd. Stephen, good morning again.
Good morning, my brother. How are you today?
All is well, man. Better than good, better than most.
Well, I'm happy today because today is my 50th birthday as well.
Hey, man, happy birthday. You know what? Pam did share that with me. Happy birthday to you.
Yes, man. Thank you so much. I am very happy today.
May God bless you with many, 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 many more. My goal is 100 and healthy, so I got about 40-some plus years to go. So, may God continue to bless you. But like I said, whenever we were doing our couple of minute talk there before we got on air, we have a lot in common. And so we're going to have a good time for this hour or so. Whenever I shared with Pam, she told me you were an educator. I said, we're going to have a good conversation. I don't know if you remember, again, you might have, you should, you just turned 50. You should have been here whenever the O.J. Simpson trial was going on. What's his name? The attorney that was the Marine. And he told, F. Lee Bailey, he had told Mark Furman because Mark had been in the Marines as well. So whenever he came up to examine him, he told Mark they were going to talk Marine to Marine. So I guess we're going to talk educator to educator.
That's right.
I always got a kick out of that line. F. Lee Bailey said, we're going to talk Marine to Marine. So I tell you what, we're going to talk educator to educator. So I see you started, like your parents, you said you came from a minister background. So that kind of like gets into where it kind of started. But talk to me a little bit about, we're going to work our way from like elementary on up in terms of like what drove you, or are you where you thought you were going to be, or is this where you saw yourself whenever you were a child?
Well, the first thing is thank you so much for this platform and for this opportunity to share with you and your audience. When I grew up, well, first of all, our home, I come from a working class family. My father was a farmer and a custodian, my mom a school nurse, and our rhythm throughout the week was work, school, and home. That was it, and church.
Exactly.
That was kind of our rhythm, weekly. And so with respect to work ethic and faith and all those kind of things, my parents instilled a sense of work ethic and faith within us. And of course, the value of education had more to do with, it doing the grades. But, I was really into like music big time, so I was in music in the community and the church. And then I excelled musically in school. So my aspirations when I graduated from high school was I was going to go to Berklee College of Music. I was going to go to Eastman and some of those schools like that. And I was just going to perform all over the world. That was kind of like my mantra.
Right.
But my mom and dad said our money can't afford that. So I went to a nice HBCU called the University of Maryland Eastern Shore and focused on music education. And even then, my plan was after I graduated, I'm going to do a couple of years. I'll teach, get some money under my belt. And then I'm going to go to Eastman, and then I'm going to go to Berklee, and then I'm going to do this I.
Right.
And so, you know how it is. It's that age-old adage that says, tell God, if you want to ever want to make God laugh, tell him you're playing. Right? And so none of those things occurred, but I've always had a passion for the stage and for performing and for speaking. And it wasn't until, about 12 to 15 years ago that I really began to understand how to formulate and create, a sense of something that people would need and, so that you would have something to share. So I've always been a musician, always been a singer. As you heard from my bio, I come from 3 generations of preachers, and so that is that stage in terms of the faith-based stage, and then as time has gone on, the musical stage, and then also the motivational speaking stage. So I am where I am now, but the one thing I can honestly say is the path that it's taking to get to where I've been for the past several years, I never anticipated those twists and turns.
I know that's right. And like I said, the more we talk, the more similarities come. You said your dad was a custodian?
Yeah, my father was a custodian and a farmer.
Okay, so I was a custodian for 7 years. During my 4 years of undergrad, I worked at night as a custodian. Even at my last year in high school, I did it part-time as a custodian. So I know even of that in terms of, what that job entailed, because so when you just said that, my eyes lit up again. But I know exactly what you're talking about because, see, again, our backgrounds are somewhat sort of similar. We had kind of like the same rhythm in my house. I started taking piano lessons when I was 8 years old. And I did it for like 10 years from 8 to, and my intent was to, when I graduated high school, was to major in music or either English. Well, we call it language arts now, but at that time we call it English. And my father was like, nope, because you won't be able to make any money at either one. He was like, with music, you either gonna have to be like a Michael Jackson or either, and if in terms of English, the only thing you'll be able to do with that is teach. And so you won't make any money there. So I veered off my passion path and majored in business administration for undergrad and wound up working in corporate America for 15 years. But it just, and I had, Stephen, when I tell you I had perks up the wazoo, but it was doing nothing for me inside. And that's whenever I took one of the buyout packages and I left and I entered the field of education. And the 25 years that I've been in education has just been phenomenal from just every aspect. And so I can relate and I totally understand like the combination of the music and because ultimately, this is what I tell you, this is where our paths cross again. Because I tell people when I retire from principling, what I intend to do is motivational speak. That's what I want to do. I want to go around the country and I want to go into the school districts and school systems and fire them up for 2 or 3 days or a day or whatever and come on back out and go to the next one. So that's where I'm ultimately going. But in terms of like, okay, so we get there now was like, okay, so music was your thing, but what about like, cause you ultimately now became an author. So were you reading and writing? Was that your thing too, as you came along in your academic career?
Well, interestingly enough, when I really started to try to figure out how to merge these platforms, that really was the challenge. Because when you're, as a musician, you have that platform, you have a musician and you're a preacher kind of on that faith-based stage. But then as I was developing the K-12 stage, the struggle, I guess for me, was how do you kind of marry those two markets together when you're speaking to both? And it took some time to kind of just find the mission of the fact that regardless of where you are, who you are who you are, regardless of who you're talking to. And so with respect to the SB Entertainment as a company is the umbrella for anything that I do at whatever stage. So, for instance, the mission of my company is we create compelling content to excite, educate, and empower. And so, no matter where I go, whether it's for instance, this week, one of the chaplains at the local prison, they had for their inmates, they have several Christmas dinners and Christmas services for them. And so he invited those of us that volunteer in the prison. That's something else I do once a month. We do host spiritual services for some of the prisoners, and we sing and we preach. Let me tell you something. Those guys got talent. They got full band, guitar players, leads. Drum players. So once a month going in. But my point is, when I went in there to excite, educate, inspire. If I'm in a K-12 audience, I'm doing the same thing, educate, inspire. So when I began to understand that mission was the same, regardless of what platform that I was on, man, it just clearly caught fire. And so the author piece started to come into play after Heal the Land was released in 2020. I signed with this consulting company for a little while. I really loved the song, and because they wanted to promote the song and put me on the road with the music, I said, well, hey, let me go ahead and finish the book. And so I finished the book into 2023. And then these other opportunities as a result of, connecting with my publicist, Pam Perry and Mark Perry. And then they got me involved with another publisher, and that's when I got involved with Your Deck of Success. And then the publisher and the writer of that really liked me. We connected on a faith-based level. And so this year, he released another book called Divine Blueprint, and he wanted me to write in that book as well. So within the space of less than 3 years, I'm on three. I've got 3 different books. I got 3 different books. I'm on, got all this music, and I'm speaking on these platforms. So I'm grateful to God that in the past 3 or 4 years, these things have happened. Now, for your audience, now we're writing a book for the K-12 side. So we have a training that we have, a proprietary training we put together called Contagious Teaching. And that's really all about the sauce of master teachers. We wanted to communicate to teachers that if you want to be that teacher that has that it factor, that students love and principals love it because they want to tell teachers, hey, you want to be like this teacher. And what we wanted to do is encapsulate that in a training that was very simple and that was fun and that we could turn around and coach teachers around that. Well, in 2025, we're going to release that into a book. And with that book, we're going to have our first Contagious Teaching Conference. So we're really excited about that. And so that'll be another book that we'll be doing. And our goal is to not just make that a book that I write. I'm going to co-write it with several national authors. But we're also going to be elevating some other authors. So it's going to be a co-author model. So in the same way that other people really elevated me and elevated my brand by writing on their books, I have some other people that I really want to give the opportunity to and a platform to and put them on with me and some other national authors and give them a platform to elevate them because of the capacity that they have. So June 2025, when school is over, all the teachers, specifically teachers with 5 years or less of teaching experience, I really have a passion for the new teachers because I knew as a struggling new teacher, I knew how it was. And so what the Contagious Teaching Conference is really going to focus on, any teacher can come, of course, but we really want to focus on inviting teachers with 5 years of experience or less with the goal of giving them some additional capacity and giving them the encouragement that they need to kind of stay in the profession. And this, of course, will also be for any students that are in undergraduate to come to this conference so they can get some empowerment, they can get some capacity building, if you will, because we know universities are struggling to recruit young students to want to come into the teaching profession because let's just be honest, our kids are really, really challenging to deal with. And so
that's correct.
Teachers just like, you know what, forget it. When I can come out of college and make 6 figures, rather than start off in 60, 70,000 or maybe 50,000, and still have to work a part-time job, just to make ends meet. So, the goal for this conference is really to solve a couple of problems. Number one, we know there's a teacher shortage, so we want to encourage teachers that have already signed contracts to remain in the profession, which is why we teachers with 5 years of experience or less. And then also we use this as an outreach to the undergrad to bring them to the conference so they can kind of be in a space where they get to hear inspiring teachers, they get some great products. The other piece about this is we're also going to be providing a mental wellness piece to this conference. So we're partnering right now. We're working through this process with a local university and their counseling and psychiatric department to provide maybe some providers and some of the interns that work in their counseling department, that during the conference at different times, spread out throughout the floor, teachers can come and get 30 minutes to talk to a counselor about anything that's going on with their mental health. And what we're hoping that will happen is that some of those teachers will take advantage of additional sessions after the fact, when they get authorizations through their insurance. I'm really excited about some of these partnerships through the Contagious Teaching Conference. And as a result of that, so that book will also be released during that conference.
Well, I'll tell you what, because I actually downloaded Heal the Land and Divine Blueprint. Now, there was another one you mentioned that I'm going
to... Your Deck of Success.
Yeah, so that one I'll have to download as well, because I have Divine Blueprint and I have Heal the Land, a blueprint for spiritual restoration. So I'll have to get that other one as well. But just want to let you know, secondly, you're working with Pam Perry. You're working with one of the best. Pam is one I've developed a relationship with that when she calls or texts or emails me and she says she has somebody, I don't have to vet them. The vetting has been done. So, case in point, she did that with you. She said, I have a guest for you. I said, okay, what's up? His name's Stephen Boyd. I said, he's in. Can he do it this Saturday? But I love working with Pam and Mark. And so you're working with one of the best there. And I'm not surprised things have taken off the way that they have. And like you said, at the end of the day, it is all God. Whenever who's pulling the strings, so forth and so on. So, in terms of you were talking about, education, because listening audience, when I get somebody that does multiple things, I call them a Renaissance man or a Renaissance woman. Now, I'm not mad at folks who can do one thing their entire lives. I'm not. There are some people who are like that. And then there are those of us who are, as my professor said last night, multi-talented. Those of us who have multiple talents. And so those are Renaissance people to me, because you heard Stephen talk about the author, you heard him talking about being an educator, you talking about, being an entrepreneur, being the musician, so forth and so on. He gets an opportunity to spread his talents in various ways. Now, were you a principal as well?
I did oversee an alternative school for a couple of years.
Because I see it says administrator, but you're right. And just the fact that you're a black male in education. That speaks, because there's a shortage, and then there's a shortage in the shortage, and a shortage in the shortage, and the shortage in the shortage. So when we start getting, into like the percentage of African American male teachers, the percentage is really low, especially in comparison to the number of African American and people of color students that you have. So it's always so good for particularly Black children and Hispanic children and people of color children, and I guess the buzzword is immigrant children these days, to see someone who looks like them present and stand before them. And the fact that you're doing now conferences, particularly for the teachers, that is great, because it is a profession. This is my 25th year in this particular industry, and I have never seen it the way that it is in terms of trying to hire teachers. I had a fifth grade vacancy I had a fifth grade vacancy for almost 2 years. I had a fourth grade vacancy for nearly a year. And now I have a phys ed vacancy and an art teacher vacancy. And it really is hard to fill. We've had job fairs where not one candidate walked through the door.
Right.
It has truly been a challenge. And like you said, I get the kids, they can be a challenge. Yes, they can. But at the same time, what I tell, when I'm talking to educators, we get an opportunity to leave a legacy. Because I don't know, I'm sure you've had this experience as an educator, that kids come back, or kids are grown, or kids see you in the street or in the supermarket or wherever they see you. And, we think the Michael Jordans and the LeBron Jameses of the world, but teachers get just as much, because kids really go crazy over their principals and teachers.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. I can say now, like I said, almost, nearly 30 years, a couple more years I'll be at 30. I am seeing the students now as adults, and I'm seeing their kids who are 15, 16, 17, 18, graduating. And now, when I get to the point where those kids start to have, I'm in the profession where I start to see grandkids, it might be time for me to go.
Well, I'm already there. I've seen grandkids.
Grandkids.
I'm just about there. I'm close. I know I've definitely had. I actually graduated in June. The son of a child that I taught when he was in 8th grade.
Exactly.
And so yeah, I know exactly what you mean. But I'm getting darn close to having the grandkids.
So it's interesting because it was so I work at the central office in my district now. But I had principal had an emergency, and so I responded to the school, and the student I taught the mother, the student's about 15 or so, and when they were kind of going through it and getting information, the girl said her date of birth, and I just looked at her, I was like, oh my God, I remember you when you were born.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
I was like, oh my God, Jesus, but that legacy that you just spoke of, I am very grateful for that because had I quit, as all educators, you want to throw in the towel, you want to quit, because it gets tough. Kids are tough. Kids have a lot going on, and as the years have rolled by, unfortunately, it's not getting any better. And I want to put a plug in here, and this might challenge some ethical or maybe even some moral or societal thought process. But, unfortunately, if we go back 60, 70 years, when we had two-parent homes in a lot of our families, the nature of the education system really was able to thrive from the stability of the home.
Correct.
And it's things that I know people will maybe push back on this, but I think if we would really start kind of embracing some core values as relates to the partnership between the home and the school, we really see the schools really thrive. I don't care how much money you try to throw at districts and how many programs we do. All those programs are great, but the truth of the matter is we can raise better students if we make sure that the homes that they come from are homes that are thriving homes.
Brother, now you're preaching. And let me tell you why. Because I am like pushback or no pushback. I am of that same ilk. I am in that because even when you were talking about the rhythm of your home when you grew up, I had a very similar rhythm. And I did a presentation a couple of weeks, 3 weeks ago. I did a presentation to a PTO parent leader group, and that was what I opened up the presentation with. It was a triangle. I said, now if we could get the school, the church, and the home. And I said, I get it. Everybody in here, different faiths, different beliefs, may not believe it all. So I'm not necessarily saying you have to have the church component. It would be great if you do, if you had the triangle, church, home, and school. But certainly you need the home and the school. And the kid and the child, the student, the scholar needs to understand that home and school. Because my biggest success is whenever I pull a parent into the office and the child in the office and the child sees that me and the parent are on the same page. Because kids are very good at playing two ends against the middle.
You got that right.
They will play the home against the school against the home, and they will do it very well. So once they figure out, mom and dad and principal, they working together. And I always help the student understand, we working together to make you the best.
And here's the thing, the thing that I find very, very interesting is if we go back to my grandparents' generation, they put out better quality students, better quality adults.
Yes.
With less. This was a time of segregation. They had less money. They had less resources. You barely had a car. You had horse and buggy, but the children were mannerly. They had ethics. They had self-control. Not everything was perfect in our communities, but you know what? When it came to wanting to make sure that your children had a sense of pride.
Absolutely.
Morality. We didn't have all of our white counterparts had. Sometimes you had 3 or 4 times less than them. But you know what? We had love. We had community. And so with some of those values, as you said, when we get back to that connectedness and we close that triangle between the church, the home, and the community, and kids see that unity, man, look, they'll respond. So, that's one of the things with respect to what we need to really focus on in 2024, getting back to some of those core values. Actually, we see some of that with some of our immigrant families that are coming here. The truth of the matter is they use the education system to leverage economics, but in terms of their faith, their family, and their values, they get that at home, and they're able to marry those things and then raise up, healthy adults. They end up being doctors, lawyers, engineers, all those kinds of things. So we see that element working very well.
No, you're absolutely right, because it's interesting. I just texted my guidance counselor. I don't know if she was already listening or not, but because we had a similar conversation yesterday, my school counselor, and I just texted her and said, this is an interview you're going to love. If you're not tuned in already, please tune in, because you just hit on it in terms of the teaching and the sense of value for the children from the home, because this is what I'm saying. This is what I found over my time in education, particularly in an urban area. A lot of the things that ought to be taught in the home are not, and I'm teaching it in the school. In other words, manners. I mean, it is amazing to me that I can go to a store and see people strolling around in pajamas and Crocs. There was just some things that just were unacceptable. 2 weeks ago, I visited with my second grade teacher. My second grade teacher is 88, and I went to see her 2 Saturdays ago and sat with her for a good 2 hours. We had a wonderful conversation. Because, see, part of the problem I have with the way we do things in terms of accountability and standardized testing now is we try to act as if the teaching back in our day, nobody did anything. Teachers didn't teach, kids didn't learn. So the newfangled way that we do things now is the be-all, end-all. I don't buy into that, because pretty much kind of like what you're saying about the pushback. Some of these things that we threw out, as they say, baby with the bathwater, we threw out some things that actually was making a well-rounded student.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I am in total agreement with what you just said. First off, I know there will be those that might push back. I don't quite understand why, because, the other thing is there's never, ever been a better time to be a student from a technology and a resource perspective. However, At the same time, with all of that, we seem, like you said, to be going the other way, because my pastor always says, and which I totally agree with, and you just kind of hit at it, because you just said you went to an HBCU. The folks who built these HBCUs did way more with way less. Right. And now we got all this, and our HBCUs are almost going bankrupt.
I have a chapter in my book, the Heal the Land book, called where I deal with a principle called the law of unintended consequences. And I use the story of Saul and the people wanting a king. And, there are people told Samuel, we want a king, we want a king, we want a king.
That's correct.
Right? And so, in Samuel's dialogue with God, it's kind of like, okay, what do you want to do? And God tells Samuel, hey, go ahead and give them what they want. But the consequence will be taxation, high labor, all these other things that he tells them, but give the people what they want. And I talk about in the book, as I begin to just kind of frame before I get into what I call the Heal the Land blueprint, I frame that has people really considered that where we are in our world, the unintended consequence of our investment is what we ask for.
Correct.
Where we are morally, where we are financially, where we are, it's kind of like, God, this is what we want. We want this. We want this. We want to march for this. We want this. We want more of this. Okay, no problem. Go ahead and take it. But now right. But the consequence of those things are the high crime. The consequence is the breakdown of our homes. The consequence is, our children are going crazy. The consequence is, all these mental health issues. But hey, don't blame God. You asked for it.
Absolutely. And what's interesting? It's amazing. We definitely got to meet or talk or do something, because the synergies and the things that are so like that scripture you just used, and I'll couch it this way, but I use 1 Samuel chapter 8 in 2016, and I use 1 Samuel chapter 8 in 2024, and I'll leave it there. But I think if those who know, they can read between the lines. But you're absolutely right. Like, we want a king. Okay, fine. I'm going to give it to you, but this is what's going to come along with it. And you're right. Because it goes back to kind of like the wiser but weaker thing as well. We are wiser, but we are weaker. And we are definitely seeing that in the schools. I mean, I literally yesterday had a young man. I have an all-boys school. The school that I lead is an all-boys school. It's a leadership school. It's not an alternative school. It's a leadership school. And man, do folks get that confused because they immediately hear all boy and they think, oh, it must be bad boys. No. It's a leadership school. But even with that, I had a child come in yesterday with a dress shirt turned inside out backwards and didn't realize it.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm. Didn't know, because the counselor and I sitting there like, you do understand this shirt is on backwards, or you have it on inside out, don't you? He didn't know. Because this is the thing, I have a basketball team. And so every school I've been in with a basketball team, Stephen, I said, all right, y'all want to be in the NBA. Let's simulate it. Because the NBA players, when they come to the stadium, they're in suit and tie, most of them. So on game day, I want you dressed up in shirt and tie. Yep. Man, that has been, in every school I've been in my district, that has been a challenge until they finally kind of grasp on. So that's what we're doing at my school. So the young man came in with a dress shirt on. And this is the other thing, going back to what we were talking about. A lot of our children don't have dress clothes because they don't go to church. They don't go any place where you have to dress up. So when I now implement and say, well, you have to wear a dress shirt, tie, slacks, and shoes, they're looking at me like, we don't have those kind of clothes.
Right. Yeah. And so because a lot of times in one of the elements of one of the trainings that I have, I talk about with teachers assuming, erasing assumptions. And the reason why I talk about that is if you assume students know certain things, you've already lost the battle with respect to compliance behavior. And so when I talk about that, I talk about erasing assumptions. And then when you have those students come into your classroom, assume they know nothing about your behavioral expectations. Not only that, but I take it a step further to communicate that you just can't tell me your expectations, but you have to teach me your expectations. And so with that, of course, you know, the explicit teaching model, I do, we do, you do. One of the things I talk about in my workshops is that you have to show me the same way you taught me how to play basketball, the same way you showed me how to do a jump shot, the same way that you showed me how to do an appropriate layup. You have to show me, how do you walk in my classroom? You have to teach me that. You have to teach me, this is how we sit in our classes. You have to teach me, this is how we take out our paper. This is how we sharpen our pencil. This is how we have to teach it from, this is what you do to garner success in my classroom, or in your case, if we decided to do these what we call teach twos, if we decide to do these, we do it as a school. This is how we walk down the hallway. This is how we eat lunch. This is how we put on a suit and tie. Now, people are like, well, these are grown kids. These are middle school. They should know by now. You're the very one that's always sending kids to the principal's office.
That's exactly right.
Right? They should know by now. I don't have time to teach that. I teach math. I teach social studies. No, you teach life skills. You know what I'm saying? And
that is correct.
If we go back to that vertical articulation we're talking about between the children, you know, I guarantee you that many of the things that were reinforced in the home, mom and grandma were trying to teach certain morality. They knew that the teachers would articulate the same things. There was a sense of community there. And so if we begin to kind of mesh this together, you know, when you take that time to invest that time into students by erasing assumptions, teaching everything, or if there's something that comes up, what I always call in my workshop, some kind of anomaly that you didn't expect. Oh, I didn't expect kids to start doing this type of behavior, and it's kind of taken away from my instruction time. Stop the instructions. Begin to figure out what is it that you want to do. Matter of fact, in one of my most recent articles called the ATM behavior, I talk about, you know, I use the ATM analogy to kind of talk about assume nothing, teach anything, and then monitor and model and monitor. And so essentially what I'm saying is that when you take the time as a teacher to really formulate the scaffolding in every child's brain for what the appropriate behavior looks like and sounds like, you get that instructional time back. And every time that I've taught this, every time I've demonstrated this or helped teachers formulate a formalized way and a calendar for doing this, there's not a teacher in the world that did not get the time back and increase the commitment and the ownership from the students as a result. It's the ones that say, okay, I gotta stay with the pace of God. I gotta stay with the calendar. I gotta stay with these, you know. And as a result, then you spend more time correcting this and sending this one out and having sidebar conversations and calling parents or not calling parents, or when you go to the principal, did you call the parent? Well, no, I didn't call the parent. Well, why didn't you call the parent? I mean, you just keep going in circles and circles and circles. You're wasting valuable and precious time. And to all due respect to the teachers that really get stressed out, this would actually relieve your stress if your mindset is, okay, Johnny, before you come in my classroom, I need everybody to sit down on the side here in the hallway, all right, on the first day of school. I'm Mr. Boyd. Welcome to my class. You are scholars, and today what we're going to teach you first is how we walk into the class. Next thing is, okay, before you get into math or whatever, those first 6 to 7 weeks of school, I'm talking about not just teaching expectations, but, not just telling expectations, but teaching expectations.
Absolutely.
If you do those kinds of things, man, you get your time back. And so I want to encourage all of the teachers and principals, anybody that's listening to us today, encourage your teachers to stop for a moment, or before they, when they come back from break, take the first week to say, okay, you know what, we're going to spend some time teaching some expectations. Tell the teachers, say, hey, look, you know what, kids, before we left, listen, this classroom was a circus. And you know what, guess what? I am the one at fault because I assumed that you all should know how to do certain behaviors. You should know how to behave a certain way. But we're not going to do that now. What I'm going to do is we're going to do a couple of different behaviors each day over the next week, and we're going to reinforce it and model it because I have wonderful scholars to teach. I have great content to show you. I want to give you experiences that will last you for a lifetime, but I can't do that if we have a chaotic classroom. And I'm telling you, time and time and time and time again, those that embrace those practices and have a framework to reinforce it, man, they get the time back.
Well, see, that's a wonderful way to frame it, exactly how you just said it. And I'm a witness to what you're saying in terms of getting the time back. Because, again, it is amazing, and I can understand based on, especially if you're older. Now, somebody that's in their 20s may or may not understand the way somebody in their 50s or 60s, or 70s, depending on how you were raised, this thing about assumption. Because an older person, based on how they were brought up, may assume that the kids are being brought up that way when in reality they're not. Therein lies, to me, the problem, because those things that you're talking about were, during our day, taught in the home. And this is going back to what I was saying. We don't see these things. But I am literally every morning. My school is a little bit different. It's kind of non-traditional. So I have a morning meeting with my students every morning where they have breakfast. And when I tell you that, what you were talking about, that's what I've been doing, trying to help them understand cleaning up behind themselves after breakfast. Like, you're not just going to leave your stuff on the table, expect the custodian to get it, or, the lunch monitor or whoever to come clean up behind you. And just because you're a male, don't think that you don't have to learn how to do certain things, such as wash dishes, clean, iron, wash, so forth and so on. So we get into a lot of that in my school, exactly what you're talking about. And you're right, once the light bulb goes on, and it takes a little while for it to go on, but once it does, they begin to kind of connect the dots. And going back to the teachers, just like you said, all right, look, I'm not going to assume you know how to sit down in my class. Go exactly what you said, the same thing, like how to line up, how to walk through, how to go to the bathroom, how to do this, that, and the other. Because this is what we do. And this is another one. When you first started talking about that whole assumption thing, what came to my mind was we do this talking the college lingo. And I've shared with my staff all the time. We talk degrees and matriculation and campus and dorms and, associates and bachelors and masters and doctorates. And we're assuming that the kids know what we're talking about when we're talking in that language. Stephen, I have a college campus less than 2 miles than where most of my students live, and they don't even know that college campus is there.
Wow.
Matter of fact, the studio that I'm in sits on that campus I'm talking about. They don't even know this college exists, this university exists, and they live right down at the bottom of the hill.
Wow. And it has to do with exposure and the lack thereof. And again, I was recently talking to a school leader in a school district at the district level, who was trying to formulate some programs for early exposure as early as, it was an articulation program for technical skills. So, getting the kids to get exposed to plumbing and, electrical, and all kinds of technical skills. Even this particular state actually has a strong mechanical airplane, like mechanical thing where you
Correct.
work on airplanes, right? But they're trying to get exposure as early as sixth grade. They could get
Yes.
some CTE experience in middle school, so by the time they got to high school, they were actually going to be articulating, so they can kind of even do some things in the grade with some of their partners. That being the case, it was hard for them because the behaviors were so challenging. And so part of our conversation was going to be about, again, what you're talking about, so we can begin to have an opportunity to expose the kids to these programs, but we can't take them out anywhere because they and so the viability of the program was kind of like in jeopardy where they got to do something because we have these private organizations that really want to get in, your Northrop Grummings, your Boeings, and all that kind of stuff want to expose these kids starting in sixth grade, starting getting them some certifications so they can start doing some things early versus wait until they get in high school. But that whole exposure piece is so vitally important, exposing them to the universities. And, to that, then, I think the technical aspect is, carpentry skills, electricity, plumbing, all these kinds of other skills that really help build a country. Not all the kids are going to go to college, but at least expose it to them. At least I want to know where it is.
No, you're absolutely right, because this is exactly where I come from. I'm telling you, I'm kind of sort of non-traditional, at least in comparison to the norm, only because, like you said, I'm not, and some of my colleagues, superintendents, and parents even, when I say this, they kind of look at me cross-eyed, but I said, I'm not one of those principals that said every student that comes through my way got to go to college. Now, I said there's technical school, there's trade school, there's the military, there's entrepreneurship, there's, of course, college. But all of them, I said, I really don't care which one you go, but all of them requires education. Right. Like, regardless of which one you go, you still going to have some education. You're going to have to be educated. All right. So that's kind of like the way whenever I'm guiding and leading my students and staff is, all right, I'm not going to sit here and browbeat you with you must go to college. But I tell you what, you want to go to tech school, you want to be an entrepreneur, you want to go to trade school, you want to go to the military, all of them requires you to have education, to think, to process, to critically think, to so forth and so on. And back to the exposure piece, again, I do a lot of exposure. Matter of fact, I'm going to have you come either on virtual or either live or whatever to talk to the boys. Expose them to so many different careers and options because I never know which is going to be the one person that the kid says, that's what I want to do. That's who I want to be like. So I vary the folks that come in to talk to them, and it's not all college educated folks. I've had carpenters in there, just like you said. Because again, we just don't know what's going to be the thing that sparks the interest for that child to say, that's it. And now, you know what, Stephen, when that happens, and I know you know it, now school becomes something relevant for them because it's a way to get to their goal.
Right. And that is really... And that's one of the reasons why I was really having a wonderful conversation, like I said, with the one school district, when they would say, it just felt like we didn't have this conversation starting earlier, and that also would articulate, obviously, into teaching them about the amount of money that some of these professions make, rather than waiting until they get to high school. They wanted to have this conversation earlier. Now school, like you said, has a greater purpose. Now I have a purpose for coming to school. For the past 50 years, 55 years, the narrative has been go to college, 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 go to college. Right?
That's right.
But college, depending on what family you come from, then cycles into 30 to 40 years of debt after the fact, unless you're going to be a doctor or a lawyer, right? Where that debt is going to be able to turn into, a multi-million-dollar salary where you can hopefully pay that debt down. But let's just really do the math for a second. If I come out and maybe I go to barber school and I work from 18 to 25 and maybe go to classes at community college or go to school part-time and I'm able to pay my way, by the time I get to be 25, 26, I'm paying my way, I got cash in my pocket, I've actually got a degree or maybe a associate degree, but I'm out of debt. I don't have any major debt. I think that narrative with respect to that really can speak to not only the financial stability of the child, but even a more productive worker. So with respect to that, 7, 10 years ago, now the narrative has changed at the federal level about being college and career ready. And of course, college, career, workforce, and or the military. Because I think we're starting to see that college has its place with some people, but it's not for everybody.
Correct.
And I have even seen, like, I'm just sharing, even my own child, I mean, I did not try to push college on her. What I did say was, I tell you what, let's start local. Let's see how you do. All right. And then if you want to go transfer your credits to somewhere else, we can do that. My daughter graduated from a community college. She is working. She's doing well. She's making her money. She's doing well. And if she wants to go back and work part-time and go back to school, she can. But guess what? I don't have no debt.
I know that's right. I know that's right.
But not only that, right? I didn't send my child. Here's the other trend, and you've been doing this for a long time. This is I even took this route with my own child, right? I was beginning to see kids that were the valedictorian, the salutatorian, all 4 years of college paid. I'm talking about they're going to the best of the best of the best of the best, coming back home, having to go to drug rehab and then go to community college anyway. Because they went to college, they got exposed to so many crazy things. They didn't have any time management skills. You don't have mom and dad to cover you. You don't have a bell schedule. You don't have all these boundaries that, school and high school had. And then when you're out there in college and then you get involved in this scene, they can't handle it. And they come back, they go to a local college, go to community college, go to drug rehab. And I started to see this trend. I said, what, that's not going to be for my family. And so I say all that to say, even with those of us that work in education, that are like you and I, we're kind of saying something that's a little bit antithetical to what the district wants us to say with respect to college. I think we have at least the wherewithal to look at the world and look at our kids and say, you know what, let's redefine productivity.
That's right.
With respect to post-secondary education, and let's at least say, you know what, maybe productivity for this one is working, as a plumber, and then maybe starting his own plumbing business. And let's just be honest, the average plumber is going to make 3 times what you and I make. Absolutely. About December all the way to February, because our pipes are clogged, our pipes are frozen.
That's absolutely right.
Guess who we're calling at 3 o'clock in the morning to come and unclog our pipes? That kid that went and got a certification in plumbing. Guess who's making 3 times the money when our heat is out or when we need air conditioning? The kid that graduated and went and got an HVAC certification, and now he's working. Now he's working for some kind of guy, and he's getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning. Oh, hey, what's up, Mr. Medley? We'll get your heat on right away. And guess what? I cannot be mad at that kid. Guess who I'm going to every 2 weeks?
That's right.
Barbershop. You know what I'm saying? So I think we need to redefine the narrative. I think we need to redefine success. I think we need to focus on financial literacy and making sure kids know how to manage their money. And whatever path they do, whatever path they take, as long as they can find a sense of success. And like you said before, when we can change the narrative about the purpose of school and combine financial literacy, and kids can see what the salaries are and how they can make a living, it's going to redefine how they come to school, because they're coming to school for a different purpose. Because let's just be honest, it's either go to school, do English, reading, and math, or hang out on the street where a guy's going to pay him $60, $70 a day to take a package across the street.
Correct.
You're competing with that.
Correct.
You're competing with that. And at the end of the day, if that $300-$400 a week at 13 years old is helping me take care of my mom or put some food on the table or whatever the case might be, all right, there is a magic towards economic stability. Where here, man, what's the adjective? Man, I don't care about no adjective.
Correct.
I'm trying to get some bread and some milk. You know what I'm saying?
That's absolutely right. No, you've described. That's exactly. I mean, I've had kids tell me, "Yo, Mr. Medley, I make more in a week than you make in a year." And my only pushback to this, listen, man, I ain't never seen no old drug dealer. I said, and I don't have to look over my shoulder. However, there is a point there. Now, you talked about your workshop in terms, because mental health, I mean, is like at an all-time high. Yeah. And I mean, I've had personal experiences in terms of family members. It can be devastating. And some family members who are teachers, I mean, it could be absolutely devastating. And I told you my school counselor is listening. I know she's going to get mad. Miss Clifford, one of the best in the district. She is listening. And we do a lot of work in terms of social emotional learning. Do you do anything in terms of SEL?
Yes, we do have an element that we do in terms of SEL. We're going to be really exploring that to kind of open it up during our Contagious Teaching Conference in June. But in terms of SEL, our main focus is just classroom management, student engagement. The SEL piece really is in our contagious teaching training, where we really talk about two elements. The main elements is so we have 4 C's that I talk about with respect to contagious teaching. One of them is context, and one of them is connection. So the connection has to do with the relationships that teachers and students need to have. So that would really be the SEL thing that would fall under SEL, because what we really talk about is that, connecting with students relationally really becomes a springboard for you to teach them academically. And we've seen over and over and over and over again that the teachers that don't have the best relationship with the kids you don't have the key to open up their mind, their heart, to be able to kind of pour into them academically. So with respect to the SEL piece, that would kind of fall under some of the SEL brands that we talk about.
And see, this goes back to, again, we don't know, like the children that we're serving, what on earth is going on in their outside lives, outside of school. Like you just said, you worrying about me learning how to, know what an adjective or an adverb or a pronoun is, and I didn't eat last night. Or my mama got beat last night. She got her, as they say, she got her wig spun last night. And so there are so many, and I was saying this earlier prior to you coming on, into what I was saying about, this whole notion of teachers who taught in the 60s and 70s, so forth, but what we're doing now, we're making it so much better and kids are learning so much more and this and that. I don't necessarily think that's true, because what we do is with the standardized assessments, we make this judgment. Teachers didn't teach, kids didn't learn. The very simple judgment. There are so many other reasons as to why a child did not retain the academic information. There's a whole lot of and see, this is going back to the assumption thing that, even we're working with teachers, like no one, as cantankerous, as hideous as that we may think the parents are, no parent gets up in the morning and says, gee, I'm going to send this problem to school. No parent is saying that. They're not. These kids are acting out the way they're acting because of experiences they're having, what's going on in their environment, what's going on in their home. And like you said, that's why it's so important, like you were talking about, model and teach, because we make the assumption that you all know how to do this. And, I'm making the assumption you know how to clean up behind yourself, that at home, after you eat, you get up and you put your plate in the sink and you scrape it out into the garbage can, might even wash dishes. That's not the case.
That's not the case. And again, the battle is lost when you assume. Right up front, and honestly, when I do that workshop, I actually draw a correlation so people can really understand where these concepts of teaching and teach tos come from. Is John Wooden, right? John Wooden, for 10 seasons or so, was UCLA's crown jewel of all major basketball UCLA titles, all right? Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Bill Walton, all those kinds of things. But what people don't know is that right from the gate, you came into a freshman, he taught every single skill. Gentlemen, this is how we tie our shoes before we go on the court. Gentlemen, this is how we prepare our uniforms before we go. Gentlemen, this is how I want you to do a layup. Gentlemen, this is how we do this kind of pass. Every single skill. You came from a place where you can shake and bake. You got recruited, but when you came into John Wooden's, when you came to that gym, he would make you unlearn everything that you had done, because he had a formula for success. And so with respect to that, we kind of translated that into what we try to teach teachers. And of course, as you're talking about in terms of cleaning up after stuff for breakfast, it's the same thing. Before the first meal, all right, before you guys eat, we want to make sure you guys know how we want you to eat. So I have these teachers here. We're going to sit here. We're going to eat a meal, and we're going to model for you all how we eat, how we clean up, how we get up from the table, how we do all those things. And we're going to be monitoring it. And from time to time, we're going to tell you, oh, no, try that again. All those kind of things. Because this is how we do it. I often tell people, I was sitting down with a student recently, and the teacher was having some challenges with him. And I asked the student, I said, listen, let me ask you a question. Do you like going to McDonald's? Oh, yeah, I like going to McDonald's. What do you normally get? I might get this or this number, whatever the case might be. Great. Have you ever been to like a really nice fancy restaurant? Yeah, I have. Tell me what it's like. Oh, when you go in there, like the music is soft and like all the plates are really nice. You got the forks and the spoons and all that. So let me ask you a question. Would you conduct yourself in that environment like you would at McDonald's? Oh, no. Like when I'm at McDonald's, like I'm hanging out with my friends, we just chilling, stuff like that. And so what do you think that, like when you go in there, you got like a nice dress and, stuff like that. So I said, well, here's the thing. I said, when you go into this teacher's classroom, I want you to think of that teacher's classroom like a 5-star restaurant. But the problem is you're acting like McDonald's in a place like 5 stars.
Oh, I love it. I'm gonna steal that from you Monday morning.
Right? They were like, I said, here's the problem. You know how without even knowing anybody teaching you, when you went into that 5-star restaurant, the very atmosphere taught you, this is, and you're looking around at other people, you're seeing how the men open up the chair for the ladies, you listen to the music, everybody's dressed real nice, you're looking at everybody, you're looking at, you're watching everybody, who's grabbing what spoon and stuff like that, right? You're not grabbing the burger and here like you would grab the burger at McDonald's.
That's right.
Why are you acting like that in that teacher's classroom? Why are you talking to that teacher in that kind of way? What that tells me is you have a McDonald's mentality, and you're trying to take the McDonald's mentality into a 5-star classroom.
You preaching again. I love it. The McDonald's mentality. I love it.
I guess you're right. I said, so it sounds like maybe we need to practice what it's like to be there. I said, there's nothing wrong with McDonald's, but when you're at McDonald's, act like you're at McDonald's. But when you're in her classroom, it's 5 stars. And so, again, getting back to what we were talking about before with respect to that, if we begin to challenge these assumptions, if we begin to help students understand and give them a framework for understanding why we teach what we teach and why they can transfer those skills to other places, that helps us be successful. It helps us really build the framework for success overall. Does it take a little bit more time? Absolutely. But Rome wasn't built in a day, and so we have to, embrace those things so we can be successful.
Man, I tell you, now go back to John Wooden. You're right. John Wooden, his main thing was the fundamentals. The basics, the like you said, how to tie a shoe. We going all the way back to how you going to tie your shoes here. Absolutely, the fundamentals. And again, I love it. The McDonald's mentality. Monday morning, my students are going to hear about the McDonald's mentality. And I'll credit you with it, but they're going to hear about the McDonald's mentality Monday morning in morning meeting.
Yeah. McDonald's, you go through the drive-thru, you grab them. Man, you just throwing them fries. Man, you got, it's almost like going to a barbecue, man.
Right.
I had a student that just yesterday. I was with the student when the student had to go to the hospital, and so we were there for a while. And so I said, well, let me, Mom is here. Let me just go to the store. I went and bought some pizza, some wings, and and some drinks, because I figured the mom was hungry. So by the time I got there, and your mom and I were talking and eating, the child was discharged, and the child was, oh wow, what is this? I said, well, we were eating so good, and the child just went off on like, you bought chicken wings, right? And so, right? And so I said, they were doing well, so I said I was going to surprise them with some chicken wings, right? And let me tell you, this kid was eating those wings yesterday. I'm talking about the barbecue sauce was all over their lips, all over their eyes, going down their mouth. And I said, you know what? One of the ladies that was with us, she's like, grab a knife. I said, no, just leave her alone. Just leave her alone. Let her have it.
That's right. That's right.
It's not that type of environment. Just let it be. I mean, it's having a good time. I'm talking about, it was all on her face, and then we got finished. She went to the sink. She said, okay, how do I look? I said, you look great. Here, take some hand sanitizer. Here's a note to class. Because I'm coming into the school, so, I had held her a little longer or whatever. I said, what class you in? They're like, oh, here's the note to class. I'm talking about that just made her day. But again, there are times we just have to let McDonald's mentality be McDonald's mentality.
There's a time and place for everything. And
but I would say that barbecue sauce was all over her face.
I know that's right. Well, I tell you what, I knew I was going to have a blast. Like I said, F. Lee Bailey talking Marine to Marine. I was going to talk educator to educator. We could talk for hours, but we down to our last couple of minutes. And what I do with that is I shut off the mic and give you an opportunity to promote. And you can promote and shout out anybody and anything. The only thing you cannot do is say a dollar amount. But anything short of a dollar amount, I'm going to turn the mic over. And the mic is yours. And I will say this before I do that. Like I said, with Pam Perry, you're working on it. There's only two people that have carte blanche guests with me, and that's Pam Perry and Nikki Wood. Nikki Wood, if she calls and says she have a guest, they're on. If Pam calls me or texts me and says they're on. So you're working with one of the best. I'll give them that. So at this point, man, I am going to shut off the mic. You get to promote book signings, upcoming projects, your business, your LLC, anything. Only thing, like I said, you can't say is your dollar amount. So I'm going to shut the mic off, and the next 2 or 3 minutes are yours to promote.
Well, thank you so much, Mark. I certainly appreciate it. If you want to connect with me, you certainly can connect with me for our workshops, for motivational speaking, or any event that you would like for us to be on, to share with your students, to share with your staff, and share with your conferences. Go to my website at www.imstephenboyd.com, and that's all lowercase, not case sensitive. You can follow me on Instagram and on Facebook at I am Stephen Boyd. On my YouTube channel, where we put some of our educational content, I am Stephen Boyd now on YouTube. We do provide motivational speaking to K-12 audiences, to students, student assemblies. And as part of that, we provide you with some of our books and our products so you can share with your students and your staff. We do speak at conferences and the like. We're winding down for the year, obviously. But we'll be gearing up probably towards the end of January, end of February, with speaking to students at different events for different reasons that people want us to come in and share with students, and then in conferences and places like that. One of our latest speeches that we're touring the country around is called Put Your Game Face On, and I just want to end by sharing with you a couple high rocks from that. It is a training that we put together that was inspired from March Madness. You know, when you think about coaches, kind of like the last couple seconds left in the game, you're trying to draw strategy to win by 1 or win by 2. And so the game face mentality is really to communicate to people that in times of stress and strain, we all have to put our game face on. And what is the formula for success? Number one, we want to get a mentor. We talk about the power of mentorship in the game face mentality, that you can't do this alone, that you need a mentor. The Africans have a saying that says, what an elder sees sitting down, a young person will never see standing up. And so,
love that.
The fact that you need someone else to guide you along the way. Number two, the A of game face means adjust your attitude. We've all heard that old adage that says that your attitude determines your altitude. And a lot of times we talk about how life can be very, very difficult. But what makes it worse is when we have the wrong type of attitude. When we talk to teachers or other people about attitude in the workplace or in the corporation, we talk about it from the perspective that, when you have a certain type of attitude, it's really going to impact how well you do personally or professionally, and then how well the organization does. And so adjusting our attitude is much like music. Music goes fast, you dance fast. Music is slow, you dance slow. We have to have an adaptability. And then the M is make self-care a priority. So one of the things with the teaching profession, it's said that teachers are among the top 5 professions that experience the most stress. And so one of the things with respect to managing stress and managing is having a self-care plan. So whatever you do for yourself to just let it all out, whether you go to lift weights, whether you take a walk, whether you like to go shopping, just have a self-care plan so that it allows you to manage the winds of life. I share a story in that particular part about an old man that was hired to work on a farm. And the man that hired him, he thought he was too old, but he had this little phrase that seemed to kind of catch him off guard. He said, well, I know I'm old. You might think I can't do the job, but I do sleep when the wind blows. So he hired him. He found that the old man did a nice job around the farm. The man was in town and noticed that the wind was blowing, which meant a storm was coming. So he races home and he knocks on the door of the old man trying to wake him up, but he never came. So he goes to the horse barn trying to tie the horses down, but he got there. The horses were tied down, went to the pig pen. Everything in the farm that needed to be done prior to the storm coming was already done. It was then that the man understood what the old man meant by he sleeps when the wind blows. The point that we're making with respect to the self-care is one times we have to understand that the winds of life are going to blow. What is going to be your plan to sleep when those wind blows? And so when we talk about that, we talk about having that plan and not assuming that life is not going to be stressful. Finally, the E of Game Face is empowering others with positive words. And we talk about how kids and, society is always filled with negativity. Why would we bring negativity to the workplace? Why do we bring negative words to our classroom? And I talk about this, and I do a lot of fun with that. But we just talk about how empowering words are like taglines. And we ask the teachers, we ask those that listen, what's the tagline of your life? What's the tagline of your classroom? If you think of like tagline for Walmart, if you think about the tagline for Coca-Cola, we draw those parallels so they could see that those particular corporations have taglines to communicate the positive ideal. What are you communicating in your classroom? What is your tagline that when students come into your classroom, that positive idea, that positive message is always reinforced consistently? So in conclusion, I say that when we talk about put your game face on, we're talking about getting a mentor, adjusting your attitude, making self-care a priority, and having an empowering message to really do that. And so I want to encourage those who listen today, hey, listen, put your game face on. Your kids need you to be resilient. They need you to be present. They need you to have some grit from time to time so that they can look at you and that whatever's in you falls on them. We would love to be able to share with you, whether it's a motivational speech, workshop, your conference, whatever the case might be. We would love to be able to share with you. Again, go to our website at www.imstephenboyd.com, and we'd be glad to just connect with you, fill out some of the information on our booking page, and someone will get back to you and share with you.
Well, brother, I've been inspired and motivated by this conversation. I try to stay away. I'm not saying that we don't enjoy, but I try to move beyond just enjoyment and to get into the the motivation and the inspiration and the excitement and then the action. So I can honestly say I've been inspired, motivated. Like I said, some of the stuff I'm going to steal from that McDonald's mindset. Yeah, the Monday morning meeting, the boys going to get that.
McDonald's mindset. That's the McDonald's.
There it is, the McDonald's. And it's interesting you're talking about you said something about the tagline for a classroom. I hadn't thought about that because we have a tagline for the building. It's "Go Be Great." That's our tag. As a matter of fact, that's the last thing every morning as the boys are walking out the door, they hear me say as they're going to classes, "Go Be Great." So that's kind of like our tagline for the school. But I never thought of it from each teacher create a tagline for their classroom.
Yeah, because the thing about it is, what is it that you say as a teacher that really synergizes the positivity in your classroom? For instance, take yours, "Go Be Great." If I'm Mr. Boyd, hey, good morning, guys. Listen, we're coming. What are we coming to do? We're coming to be great. You know what I'm saying? Using it at the beginning of the class, using it when you're transitioning from one activity to another, using it when they're walking out the door. When I was in the classroom, I had a poem that those kids memorized, and I used that poem at the beginning. I used it during transition, and I ran into a kid several years ago that was in one of my choir classes, and he saw me, and I didn't recognize him. He was like, "Hey, aren't you Mr. Boyd?" "Yeah, I did my choir class. You remember we used to have us say that poem?" It's like that. And he started saying the poem, and I couldn't hold it together, man. I just there's stuff that I forgot.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? But like that, that really inspired me, whatever the case might be. That's what I mean by a tagline, an empowering message. You know what I'm saying? With respect to that, that's something that kind of gets down in their soul. It communicates some
right.
positivity. It communicates something that's pointing them to their future, inspiring them to be great, all those kinds of things. So that tagline, that personal tagline for your classroom, what is it going to be? And students need to anticipate that consistently from you as a teacher. Again, you have the overall one that you just said, but then teachers need to have their personal one.
Right.
I was down in Bradenton, Florida recently. A principal had brought me in, and I shared the game face. And she told him that, look, when we get back to class, listen, I'm gonna give you all a couple of days. I need every single one of you all to tell me what your personal tagline is.
There you go. That's exactly right.
I want to hear those positive messages. And it was so profound. And this is funny. So a couple of days later, the principal texted me a picture of, I guess it's the PE teacher. Because, like, when I'm doing the game face, every time I transition to it, I have them put on, like, the football, pretend like they're putting on the foot stuff, and put your game face on, and I make them go, and she sent me a picture of a teacher that had bought the little tape that you put on your eye. And he said to her, I got my game face on. So she sent me the picture. It was so funny.
I know that's right.
He had his things under his eyes. He said, I'm ready. I got my game face on. I'm ready, principal.
I know that's right. But see, again, going back to, like you said, that student that came up to you talking about they remember the poem. This is what I was talking about earlier when I was saying we get to leave a legacy. Mm-hmm. There are some things that we do with our students they will never, ever forget. Even though they act like they want to pretend like they don't want to hear it now, 5-10 years down the line when they see us, they're going to bring it back up.
They're going to bring it up.
Yes, indeed. So, man, it has been an absolute inspiration speaking with you this morning. As I said, I record the show, so I will get the links to you, the YouTube as well as the MP3. And once you get them, they are yours. You share them to whoever and however many you want.
Well, listen, thank you so much. Thank you so much to the audience. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Same here. And I will definitely be in touch.
Okay.
Take care now.